Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for bearing with us. We ran a little long this morning on health, and that's fine. We do these. That's what we get paid to do. So we're now going to reconvene the Board of Supervisors, and we're going to take up item number 26. This is for possible action to appoint one member to the Library Board, expiring June 22nd. And Nancy, I know this is under you, the manager, this is under you. We have one vacancy and a new application. Why don't you tell us what we got going on here so I don't mess it up? So we have one.
All right, so we have Nicholas Cranston here.
Okay, just one.
And he's right there.
And that's for one position. We have one applicant, right?
Correct.
All right.
For
Hi, Nicholas.
the Library Board of Trustees.
Now see that outfit there?
I know.
Now look at that. All right, you're hired. Well done. Where's your pocket square?
You know, I don't have one that matches this, so I didn't wear it. I have another one for a silver shirt that looks really good with this.
Good for you. This is a big thing between the mayor and
Soft
you.
skill. This was his soft skill
Soft skill.
that we
All
learned
right.
this morning.
Well, thanks for applying, Nicholas. And you know, we're just going to talk to you a little bit because there's no competitive interview today. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself? I know we've read your application and things like that, but tell us a little bit about yourself, why you want to serve, and then we can have a little dialogue. So go ahead.
So I've spent most of my adult life in Carson City. I lived here as a child. I moved back and forth. My parents were in the military, so I consider Carson to be my home, Nevada to be my home more
Which
than
military branch?
Air Force.
That's why you're wearing that pink shirt. I know.
I actually serve as a member of the Air Force Reserves. So serving my community and my country is pretty important to me. I have a background in education in literature, and when I heard that there was an opening on the library board, I thought that was an opportunity for me to give back to the community and to take part in something that is important to me, you know, the continued education of young people and just the community as a whole.
Well said.
I have a question.
Questions?
Thank you for applying, first of all. The library has an economic development capacity now since they've got a branch at the Adams Hub. And so how do you see the library facilitating economic development? Just your thoughts. There's no right or wrong answer, just your thoughts.
You mean the growth of like the economy in Carson City, how it can... Well, again, education is important for that. You know, helping people train, helping people get educated in the fields, giving people resources that they can use to expand and their knowledge to be better at their jobs is important. It can also help develop, you know, growth by promoting job fairs, things like that. I think awareness is going to be a big thing for the library, spreading that awareness of the ability to grow as a city.
I don't have a question. You just had me with your tie.
Says the guy who doesn't wear a
I would take
Anybody
this
else?
off as soon as this meeting is done.
So why don't you tell us what your vision is for the library? Just take a white blank. Tell us what you think.
I know that they offer a lot of stuff currently, a lot of opportunities for people to come there, especially students after school, to expand their education and their knowledge. I think those kinds of programs are really important, and I would like to try to help them expand on that, you know, offer more after school programs, more maybe adult education, things like that, to ensure everybody in Carson is getting the best quality of life they can through education.
Any other questions? John?
Tell me the last book you read and who your favorite author is.
The last book I read was, all I can think of is the milk on the front of the cover now. Hang on. Clockwork Orange. Yeah, and I started a book club with some friends of mine recently, and we found out that you can get book club packages through the library, so we're going to take advantage of that. But my favorite author, that's hard. I grew up reading Brian Jacques, which was a big, like one of my favorites as a kid. As an adult, I'd say it's probably David Eddings or Margaret Weiss, Tracy Hickman. They usually write as a team, so.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, anything else? Nicholas, we're going to vote you in here, and let me just say on behalf of the board, we laugh a little bit and make people feel more at ease. But we appreciate all the work that the library board does in the library. I mean, it's a big part of Carson City, and what it does, sometimes a lot of people don't know all the areas that it gets involved in. In my view, they're all very important areas. But it's a big part of just creating a community here. And so, I guess, when you take over, just don't look at it as another board that you're going to sit on. This is the real deal. Okay? I mean, they all are in our jurisdiction here. So just take it, with a degree of seriousness, even though we laugh about it here. We joke a little bit about, military service and stuff like that. It's the real deal. Okay? All right. Anybody else? Motion's in order.
I move to appoint Nicholas Cranston to fill a 4-year term expiring June of 2022.
Motion in a couple seconds on the motion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried. Thanks, Nicholas. Okay. All right. Now you can go talk to Sina. She's going to work you over there. And when they ask you for money, just say no. All right. All right. Let's now take up Parks and Rec. We have one position here as well, right? Two.
Actually, well, there's 3 vacancies
three.
and
Reappointment from Donna.
Yeah.
And two new applications for 2 positions, Kurt and Leah, right? Okay.
Right, and Kurt's going to go first.
Okay, go. Where'd he go? Oh, come on up, Kurt.
Oh, I know that, but there's 3 positions. Yeah, for 3 people.
Did you ride a bike down here today, Kurt?
As a matter of fact, I did.
That's what I figured you did.
So.
Okay.
Not that far.
So, just kind of, you've been here before. Tell us, why you want to be on the Parks and Rec Commission, what your ideas are, and, you were here earlier this morning on Epic Rides. We all know a lot about you, so just take a couple minutes and talk about, what you want to see done.
Okay, well, my name's Kurt Meyer. Most people I know up there and so forth, and in the audience and so forth. So I was in Parks and Recreation. I started when I was 13 as a cashier at a swimming pool in Sparks. Moved up in Sparks and worked as a supervisor at one of the facilities they built, the community center over there by Reed. I was a supervisor there for several years. Ran the sports league, supervised the pool, the preschool, and things like that there. And during that time, I also had a friend that worked here in Carson, and at part-time, I would work as a referee, help with pool maintenance, and so forth here in Carson. He left that position, and I applied for it. And Barbara and Steve hired me for that. I think that was about 1993. And in that position, I ran the sports here in Carson City, the men's sports and youth sports and so forth, and then also the swimming pool. After we passed the Quality of Life Initiative in 1996, we built our facility over there, and then I was full-time over there. I helped with a lot of things, and then I also did the ski program and so forth. Retired 2 years ago. So that's kind of my background in Parks and Recreation. During the time I lived here in Carson City, I raised 2 boys. One is 21 and one is 19. They're both at UNR.
One's a snowboarder.
One of them is a skier. He was a very successful free ride skier in his youth. So raised both my boys here in Carson City, was very active at the Little League Board of Directors for about 12 years. Also at the school board. They went to Bethlehem School. Was on the school board there for several years. So very community minded, very, very much know what it means to live in a great community, and that's volunteerism and so forth. As far as the Parks and Rec Commission, I understand how that works top to bottom because I sat in front of them several times, talking about budgets or other issues that needed to be taken care of, and I want to stay active and involved. The same as when I applied for the arts position. That's something that I'm passionate about. My son is an artist in Reno and going to UNR, and he'll graduate this year with an arts degree and a painting degree. And the same thing here. I want to be involved with this community. It's a wonderful community. I see all the volunteerism here, and I see what it does to give people an awesome community, and I want to be part of that.
Anybody? Question? You got lots of questions
I've got
today.
lots of questions today. Kurt, and there's not a right or wrong answer, but from your standpoint, since you have plenty of background in Parks and Rec, do you feel that more of our parks should be dog-friendly? Why or why not?
That's a very tenuous question. I believe people go to parks that are dog-friendly because they have dogs, and I believe people go to the parks that are not dog-friendly because they don't want to associate with dogs. So I think that keeping them, separate but equal, as far as all that goes, is probably the right thing to do, because there's a lot of people in the community that would appreciate both types of parks.
Good afternoon.
Hi there.
Hi. So if you had $100,000 to spend in Parks and Recreation, how would you go about determining the best use of the funds?
Well, that's going to be a very biased question, and since I'm not on the board right now, I was just talking to Jennifer, and I'm very overjoyed that we're spending money at the aquatic facility. For years and years, we've had problems over there. And to tell you the truth, some of the issues that are going to come up with our closure in 2 months are tenuous situations. In other words, I would put that money in the bank so we could make sure that there was nothing that is going on underneath that swimming pool that we might have to address with that money, and give the people a complete job when it's done. So that was easy because we were just talking about that.
Yeah, tell me your philosophy on the open space part of Parks and Rec.
Well, I think the open space, it's fantastic. And it's like the mayor said and mentioned, I believe that's a huge reason that Epic Ride saw Carson City as a wonderful place to come. With that open space came the trails and so forth for the Must Power and all that volunteerism. And it's really, in the words of Joel Dunn, rebranding our community in such a way that people are coming and realizing that, hey, we're right next to Lake Tahoe. This is truly our backyard. And involved with the people, with their bike race and so forth, and just being on the trails and so forth. They talk about how they never really knew that we existed in that light. And I think that open space and the quality of life initiative that we passed in 1966 is a huge part of that. It was a while back that we passed all that, but it was definitely worth knocking on all those doors and asking people for their vote, for sure.
Other questions? Everybody okay? All right. Somebody want to make a motion?
So we don't want to do the second one and do them all at once?
Yeah, we'll do them all at once. All right, Kurt, thanks.
You're very welcome.
You bet. All right. All right, who's next? Leah.
Yeah.
What is she?
She must be outside.
Good afternoon.
Hi,
How are you today?
I'm well, thanks, and how are you?
Good. Okay, why don't we just start off and tell us, one, who you are. We read your application, and why you want to serve on the Parks and Rec Board.
Sure. Is it on?
Push the button there. There you go. Now you're on.
Done. My name is Leah Cartwright. I have lived in Carson City off and on since I was 6. I love going outside. I spend a lot of time here at the community center as a member of the Carson City Victory Rollers, the local roller derby team. Hi. I have 2 dogs and rent in Ward 3. So I think this would be a fantastic opportunity to get more involved in local government.
Well, since you have 2 dogs, my question is, do you feel that more of our parks should be dog-friendly? Why or why not? There's not a wrong answer. I just want to get your take on it.
So I'm biased because I have 2 dogs. So yes, I do think parks should be more dog-friendly. That said, leash laws, leash guidelines should be followed. I have a 14-year-old beagle who just had knee surgery. I don't really want other dogs running up to him. I don't want him running at all. And then maintaining the parks by having waste receptacles and making sure that we have those bags available so that people can clean up after themselves and even others. And making that maybe even part of the app where we can report, hey, this bag dispenser's empty. So, yeah.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for applying. If you had $100,000 to spend in Parks and Recreation, how would you go about prioritizing and selecting which project?
So I haven't looked, thank you for the question. I haven't looked in depth at the budget yet or any projects or programs that are currently in the works. If anything needs repairs, I know I've seen leaks in the gymnasium when we've been skating, so that for me personally would be high on the list, but I'd also like to see what other members of the community might need. I am biased towards allowing dogs everywhere and skating in the gym, but maybe there's a need for adaptable playground equipment for kids with autism or other disabilities that we might want to look at.
Go, John.
Yeah, this isn't my official question, but I'm curious as to what breed your other dog is.
So I have my 14-year-old beagle, that's Cooper. He had the knee surgery. And I have a 4-year-old miniature Australian Shepherd Pomeranian mix. They're both from the Humane Society, so, who really knows?
Thank you. Give me your general philosophy on the open space part of Parks and Recreation here in the community.
Keep them open and keep them public, I guess would be my, keep them open and keep them public. I'm a big fan of not being fenced in. I'm the oldest of 9 children. I've never been a fan of rules, but there is a time and place for those. And just general good community stewardship and making sure that we all are able to use the space how we would like to while being safe.
Anybody else? So I have maybe a personal question for you. How do you know Jeanette Bells or Nina Laxalt?
So I just yesterday had my 3rd year annual review with Jeanette Bells. I work with her. She's my colleague/boss, although I'm supposed to stop calling her my boss now. And Nina is a fellow lobbyist, so we work together. Also, she's generally awesome.
Well, they're 2 of my favorite people. That's why I asked you that.
Mine
Okay.
too.
All right. All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Leah. Anything you want to add?
Thanks for letting me speak, and usually I'm in the background, so being at the table is a little nerve-wracking for me, but I appreciate your time.
As I told Nicholas, he was applying for the library board. These boards and commissions aren't just something to sit on, and they're not just something to say I belong to that and then show up now and then. And they're the real thing. And we look to the boards to help us vet issues because we can't do it all up here. And so it's important that when you take on this task that you don't give it short shrift. I'm not asking you to, not saying you should be in the weeds with the staff and all that stuff. I'm just saying that at the end of the day, we count on you using your brain power to give us some reasoned decisions up here so that we can make another decision, okay? Or follow your advice, so, okay, all right. Anything else? Okay, thanks, Leah. All right, say hello to Jeanette and Nina. I'm glad I don't lobby anymore, man. You guys can have it. All right. And we have Donna here, but we also have a rule, not a rule, but a practice. If you're applying for reappointment, you don't need to go through the interview process. Donna, you've been on there for, how many years you been on there now? How many years you been on the Parks and Rec Commission? Since Noah. Yeah, that's a good answer. All right. Board, what do you want to do?
I'll go ahead and make a motion.
Motion's in order.
I move to accept the recommendation from the city manager to reappoint Donna Curtis and appoint Kurt Meyer and Leah Cartwright to the Parks and Recreation Commission, each to fill a 4-year term to expire January of 2022.
There's a motion and a second on the motion. Discussion. Hearing and seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Carried. Thank you. All right. Go do good work. All right. All right, that's it for the day, right? All right, folks. All right. Okay, now let's take up, where are we? We're going to go to item 26 Charlie, 26C. This is a public hearing on the report of the city manager on the fiscal impact and recommended approval of the amended collective bargaining agreement between Carson City and the Carson City Sheriff's Supervisory Association on behalf of the Carson City Sheriff Sergeants, effective July 1, 2018 through June 30th, 2023, with an estimated fiscal impact of $986,000 to $1,010,000 for the 5-year period. I know, Nancy, you're going to, Deputy Manager, you're going to take over. Right now, for the record, we're going to open a public hearing. Okay, so, all right.
All right. So I would just want to introduce the members of the Sergeants Negotiation Team, and that's Sergeants Lowe, Primka, and Richards. And you guys sat in the order that I wrote that. So I wouldn't forget their names. So as you know, we've been negotiating this agreement over the last several months, and while the process, it's not really a fun process, I think that it went pretty smoothly, even though we kind of had some revolving doors of, key players in the process on our side. So the city recognizes the difficult job that the sergeants have and their dedication to the city, and we wanted their compensation and their benefits to reflect this while still maintaining financial stability for the city. And we feel that this agreement accomplishes both of those goals. So just a little bit about how we got here and the revisions that we made in the contract. So during the last negotiation process in 2014, we took initial steps in transitioning from the broadband system to a step system. And then sergeants were placed into the various steps that first year, and then they weren't allowed to increase in steps. So they moved up by what is, I guess, kind of a COLA each year, but they didn't progress, from step 1 to step 2 during that process. So as a result, we have 1-year sergeants that are in the same pay step as almost a 10-year sergeant. So we needed to do something to fix that inequity. So what we have here today, the agreement, it's a 5-year agreement, which I think is a first for the sergeant. So the most it's usually been 4 years. So and we're going from a 4-step system to 7 steps with 3.5% increases between each step until you get to step 7, where that step will be based on the average CPI, and it'll be a minimum of 2% to a maximum of 3.5%. Let's see. And in addition, a sergeant can't move to a step 6 until fiscal 21 and a step 7 until fiscal 23. So, and then another step, so to mitigate the inequities, effective 7/1, the sergeants were placed in the step system based on their years of service as a sergeant. And then beginning 7/1/19, they will move up to, based on their annual review, they'll move up to the next step. So, and then there's a couple small other little changes that we made. We increased the annual leave bank from 240 hours up to 280 hours that they could accrue. And we allowed for post-retirement vision and dental subsidies for retirees and their eligible dependents. And those are both consistent with other contracts that the city has. So, and then the fiscal impact is between $986,000 and $1,010,000 for the 5 years, approximately $200,000 per year. And then with that, I think Adriana had a couple minor changes in the wording in the contract.
I do, and it's just a quick change. We had agreed under Article 29, which is the special pay practices, as it relates to the associate's degree and the bachelor's degree. The language now under Article 29A1, subsection A reads, employees who have attained an associate degree prior to June 30th, 2009 shall continue to receive the 2.5% pay increase, and those who have attained a bachelor's degree prior to June 30th, 2009 shall continue to receive a 5% pay increase. We had agreed to get rid of that language, that only those that had the degree prior to June 30th, 2009, for both of those degrees, we would delete that language. When we did the draft, we didn't delete the language, so they pointed that out. That was the intent, was to get rid of that language. So in the final draft, we will get rid of the language that says that only those that have received those degrees prior to June 30th, 2009 will receive the increase in pay. And then subsection B, right below it, that right now they're entitled to $150 a year for an intermediate post certificate. So they agreed to get rid of that. So we will not pay the $150 per year intermediate post. So we need to delete that and then just renumber those following paragraphs. And those are the only other changes that we agreed to.
This is the public hearing portion of this. We'll take up the actual up or down votes at the next agenda item. Anybody want to add anything to where we are today on the hearing, just on the public hearing? You don't have to if you don't want to. Kenny?
You know, thank you for the record, Kenny Furlong, Sheriff. I sit kind of on the top of that fence.
That's why you're sitting over there. I figured you've got one leg up here and one leg down there. I know.
Certainly, I want to compliment the negotiating team in the city for all that they've done. I completely agree. It wasn't always smooth, and it wasn't always easy, and it was spirited negotiations. I do want to credit the sergeants, the Supervisors Association, for what they do here in Carson. Just this past week, matter of fact, yesterday I finished it up for the most part, the recognition of what they're responsible for in our uniform crime reporting here and across the country. We have a very lean agency as compared to not only the state, but the region. Very, very lean. In fact, we're about a full body down on the average of average staffing per thousands of people in a populated area. In fact, for as many sergeants as we have here, if we were just to go up to the regional average, this is about how many people we would have to hire just to be within the average of the region. So these folks are tremendously credited for doing what they do. As we look at crime in this community and what they respond to and what most people don't want to see, these people see it every day. In 2017, we saw one of the lowest, it's actually the third lowest crime rate that Carson City has seen since the early 90s. And of course, it didn't exist before that. Where we stand right now at the mid-year point of this year, we're 10% below that level. And that's a significant credit to these folks that are making those decisions on the spot every single day and not always having the opportunity to look it up or call somebody for advice. They have to make these decisions. The other side of it is the board, the government entities, and truly the public. We do invite you folks out as Ms. Frelick had the opportunity to get into a patrol car and ride with one of these supervisors. You can do that anytime. Of course, every member of this board knows the statutory requirement to take the opportunity annually and go to the jail. It's fascinating to see how these supervisors are minimizing risk and liability to the city every moment during their shifts and passing it on. We go through this quite often, looking out for the best interest of this community and this board and the monies that are available. So these folks do a tremendous job, and I appreciate the negotiations, and I appreciate the give and take philosophy, and these are the three guys that represented the entire unit doing that.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to say a word, please, or a few words. First of all, I want to thank you and the rest of the Board of Supervisors for having us on the agenda today and taking into consideration the CBA. I also want to thank the negotiating team from the city. This is my fifth time. I've been here with the city for 22 years, and this is my fifth negotiations and fourth time being the lead negotiator. And there's never been a spirit of cooperation like there was in these negotiations. It wasn't always easy, but bottom line is the city and the sergeants' main focus was to work together to maintain professionalism and respect for each other, and understand that, you know, even though they're city employees, we're city employees, this is sometimes a dirty business that has to go on, but there was cooperation, there was mutual respect. I do want to thank Adriana. I want to thank Nancy. I don't know if Melanie is still here. I've negotiated quite a few with Melanie, and she knows how some of them were in the past. They're all class acts. They did a fabulous job. And from, like I said, from our standpoint, this was as pleasant as possible a process as it could be.
Any other public comment? Anybody? Board, any questions? All right. Then I think, Dan, I'm ready to close the public hearing. Then go on to the next, or do I leave the public hearing open? Do I leave it open for the next agenda item? Pardon me?
I think that's fine. We can close this if we want.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go ask one more time. Any other comments before I close the public hearing on this matter? Then we'll take it up. All right, I don't hear any, so we're going to close the public hearing on item 26C on the presentation. We're going to take up 26D. This is a possible approval of the amended collective bargaining agreement between Carson City and Carson City Sheriff Supervisory Association on behalf of the Carson City Sheriffs, effective July 1, 2018 through June 30th, 2023, with an estimated fiscal impact of $986,000 to $1,010,000 for a 5-year period. And is the okay. All right. Questions? Anybody? Anybody? Public comment? Looks like everybody read. All right. Motion's in order.
I'll make it. I move to approve the amended collective bargaining agreement between Carson City and the Carson City Sheriff's Supervisory Association on behalf of the Carson City Sheriff's Sergeants, effective July 1, 2018 to June 30th of 2023, with an estimated fiscal impact of $986,000 to $1,010,000 for the 5-year period, and the final contract to reflect the changes as articulated by our Deputy DA in Article 29(1), subsection A, and, excuse me, City Manager, I'm still calling you that. Anyway, and also the changes reflected in Article 29A(1), subsection B, and that's it.
All right. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second on the motion. Discussion. I mean, we've all been briefed on these pretty carefully, and everybody's read them. I'll ask once again, any public comment? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried. Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Primkus, say hello to our Mr. Bill over there. Kane, Bill Kane. Okay. All right. See you later. Now, go keep it safe, all right? All right, thanks, guys. Got to put a cop on the street.
That's what
All
we're
right.
starting to wonder.
All right.
too. At least we're consistent.
All right. All right. Let's take up item 26, Echo E. This is update on current city projects, activities, and other items of interest. Nancy, Ms. Manager, go ahead.
All right. Having all those sergeants in the room made me nervous. Kind of like when they pull up behind you. Oops. Oops. Okay, so we already had Nikki discuss earlier the How Summit, and just wanted to remind everybody. And then July 25th to the 29th, the Carson City Fair. And on August 6th, we're having National Night Out at Mills Park. And then August 24th is Hope Fest 8 at the Carson Tahoe Cancer Center. And the next item is for Public Works. They're celebrating the opening of the Jack Transit System. It's been permanently relocated to its administrative office and bus yard, and that's at the former site of the old animal shelter. And I tried this earlier. I have a little video about Jack.
Great.
And it takes a minute to load. Is there a way to make it have sound? Oh, there you
The
go.
new animal shelter opened its doors in October of 2016 and is located on 549 Airport Road. As a result of the Jack relocation, customers can now visit our facility Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., where they'll be able to access transportation information directly from staff. The new Jack facility provides for a secure place for our transit vehicles and will accommodate additional vehicles should transportation needs grow in Carson City. Jack Transit is proud to support the Carson City Fair by providing free rides on all fixed routes during the week of the fair. Parking for the fair bus is at the Walmart on Topsy Lane, or you can get from downtown to the fair by taking Route 3 directly to Fuji Park. So give Jack a try for free anytime from Wednesday, July 25th to Sunday, July 29th.
I don't want that to keep going.
I want to see that one.
Exit. Sorry, having the Mac makes you.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Nancy Lynn. Most people know me as a holistic nutritionist, but I'm also...
All right. Okie dokie. This computer's going a little slow today. Well, let's start over. Okay, so community development. So for June, the total permit valuation was $7.35 million, and that's for a year-to-date total of $41.3 million. So we are on track to exceed last year's total, which was $68 million.
And that's calendar year, not fiscal year.
Yes, calendar year. So we've got half the year in. So on the residential permits, we had 17 single-family permits issued in June, and that's for a total of 111. And again, this is on track to exceed 2017, which was a total of 140. So next we have the My Place Hotel. This is a 64-room hotel, and this is under building permit review. This is located at Carson Street in Arrowhead. So under zoning review is at on Mountain Street. We have a special use permit to exceed the number of permitted freestanding signs, and also to exceed the permitted height for one freestanding sign, and then to increase the total permitted sign area for a congregate care facility. And then also
And
under...
I told, on the congregate care facility, this will make you happy, that's in the redevelopment district. So whatever property value goes to redevelopment.
Not one penny to us, right? Or to the school, or to, yeah, all in reading.
All right.
All right, also under zoning review is Wellington West, and this is an abandonment of a public access easement through the Wellington Crescent subdivision. And this easement used to provide public access to Ash Canyon prior to the construction of the Ash Canyon Road extension. So these are both scheduled for review by the Planning Commission on July 25th. And then a couple other items that are scheduled for review on July 25th is a zoning code amendment to change the regulations related to the use of accessory dwelling units, and that's to remove the limitation on occupancy to family members and non-paying guests. So this will allow an owner to rent out an accessory dwelling unit, but this would not allow them to rent the unit for short-term transient occupancy, which is less than 28 days. And then scheduled to come before the board on August 2nd is the zoning code amendment to modify the regulations related to the temporary banners and the flags and A-frame signs. And alternatives for considerations include prohibiting the use of the feather flags along the public streets. So this is the IFC activity from June 13th to July 2nd. For the most part, as usual, it's just to approve filling vacant positions. There was a couple equity adjustments, and from undesignated funds in the Capital Projects Fund, the break fix, we approved almost $10,000 for replacement of the security system at dispatch, and also upgrades to the City Hall elevator to bring that into compliance with the state, and that's unfortunately going to cost $47,000 for one floor. And that's the end of the show.
Can I ask you a question on the elevator?
Uh-huh.
It didn't meet handicap access, or didn't we have the separate, what was the issue there?
Do you remember from?
Because we had the separate handicap one.
Oh, so the state, we got a letter from the state that we were out of compliance, and I know we had just done some other upgrades to the elevator, but I think and we were going to wait, to do the rest of it, but I think we got the letter from the state, and we basically are out of compliance and have to do it. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know that the Nevada Appeal representative is in the room. I don't know if she would want it or not, but since you have put up the IFC decisions on the board, it's public information. Could you share that with her if she requests it? Since it's public information anyway.
Yeah, it's also
I've had
posted
a
with the
constituent make the point to me that the IFC works, I don't want to say in secret, but outside of the purview of the general public. So I just thought I'd put that out there.
Yeah, it's posted on the website under the agenda.
Good,
All the backup.
thank you.
We discussed, since Supervisor Barrett mentioned the local newspaper, maybe this is for you, Dan. There was a question that the constituent raised with me about, do we need an official paper of record? Are we going to be able to meet our posting requirements with the 2-day-a-week publication?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Mayor. I did have a discussion with Nancy about this a few days ago. I looked at the statutes and perhaps Ann could correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding is that the Nevada Appeal is going to a tri-weekly publication, meaning 3 times a week instead of daily. Oh, 2. Okay. So either way, whether it's 2 times a week or 3 times a week, under I think it's Chapter 238 of NRS, as long as the newspaper has been in continuous publication for the preceding, I believe it was 2 years for if you're going to tri-weekly. For bi-weekly, I think it may have been 3 years. I don't see that that's an issue. I've been here with the city for 2.5 years at least now, and I know they've been in publication for at least that long. So we do meet that statutory requirement. That's not an issue with respect to posting for bids, posting ordinances for our first and second readings, so that's not an issue. I think there was another one that I still am tasked with looking at, and that had something to do with a finance question, Nancy. So I hate to punt it back to you, but with respect to, the awarding of bids, contracts, and ordinance adoption publication, it should not be an issue for us.
Yeah, we have some financial information that says it has to be, I think it says 4 consecutive days or 5 consecutive days, so we need to figure out what exactly we need to do with that. And I was actually just talking to Kathy about this because she usually publishes the ordinances on Sunday. So we've already talked to the paper because we only have a 2 days now notice to the paper, but that they'll work with us to get those in on Saturday.
Okay, all right. So we have one little outstanding one on finance to see how we're going to do that.
Yeah, it's like 2 numbers that need to get, right, that get
It's all right.
published quarterly, yeah. So.
All right. Okay. Anything else from the manager? Anybody? All right. I don't see any. Thanks, Ms. Paulson. Thank you. All right. We'll now conclude discussion on item 26E. Go to 27, public comment. Anybody? Ann, you want to talk about anything?
My daughter is getting quite old and rambunctious these days. That's about it.
Okay. The record reflect that there is no concluding public comment. Are we ready to adjourn, board? Everybody okay if we adjourn? Without objection, then we are adjourned.